Good evening, everybody. Sorry for the late start. I actually am in Louisville, Kentucky right now, and I am just getting out of the hospital. Family member has had surgery. We've been here since 5 o'clock in the morning, but it's time to talk about what is going on with our country, because yeah, it is.
I still believe in the warmth of heaven come. I need the rapture I feel when I feel.
All right, sorry for that glitch. Hopefully I didn't lose anybody. But got Tom Armstrong saying Mrs. Premise and Miss Conclusion would like a word. Absolutely. I understand that. Yes, they would. So, y'all, right now, we have more, what I'll call, for lack of a better word, cover-ups coming out of Washington. And I think that we've really got to look at it, especially in light of I'm here at a hospital and it's related to my story. So, every night in this country of ours, a small plane takes off in the dark, carrying nobody but a flight crew and an empty stretcher, headed somewhere to pick up a stranger having the worst night of their life. That's MedEvac. No applause, no headlines, just 4 people who signed up to fly into weather and terrain that most pilots would wave off because somebody needed a hospital bed faster than a highway could get them there, or there's no highway to drive on. On the night of May 13 into May 14, 2026, one of those planes didn't make it. And the story of who touches the military, the FAA, and a piece of technology every one of us carries in our pocket and never thinks about twice. GPS, Global Positioning Satellite. I'm Spencer Keck, 24 years a Navy corpsman, now a public high school teacher here in Hardin County, Kentucky, and I'm running for magistrate in District 3. Somewhere between the Cumberland Gap and right here at your kitchen table, Daniel Boone cut a path through this country that nobody thought was passable. That's what we do on this show. We cut through the noise, the spin, and the shouting, and we get to what's actually true. I'm the educated hillbilly, and this is the Hillbilly Think Tank. Segment 1, what actually happened. So let's lay out the timeline, because that's what matters. And because a lot of loud claims have gotten ahead of the facts here. Now, just before midnight on May 13, a twin-engine B-craft King Air C-90 call sign N249CP, operated by Generation Jets under contract for Trans-Aero MedEvac, lifted off from Roswell Air Center, New Mexico. On board, pilots Keelan Clark and Ali Kalsara, and flight nurses Sarah Clark and Jamie Novick. Their mission was routine for this business. Fly to Sierra Blanca Regional Airport near Ruidoso, pick up a patient, get them to Albuquerque. 8 minutes after takeoff, the crew lost GPS. According to the NTSB's preliminary report, that wasn't a malfunction. It was the U.S. military running a scheduled electronics warfare exercise called NavFest out of White Sands Missile Range, about 65 kilometers away. NavFest tells how well American forces can operate and fight in a GPS-denied environment, the kind of environment our military expects to face against a serious adversary. Pilots in the region get advance notice through federal NOTAMs. NOTAMS is the acronym. This wasn't a secret. An Albuquerque air traffic controller noticed the MedEvac plane 1,000 feet off its assigned altitude and asked what was going on. The crew said that they lost GPS and needed a heading. The controller called a supervisor. The supervisor called the military and asked them to pause the jamming training that they were doing. They did. There's a real safety mechanism here. Controllers call it the stop buzzer, and on this night it worked. GPS came back. The crew then told the controller they had the airport in sight and asked to go to visual, meaning fly the rest of the approach by eye, not instruments. That request was accepted. About 2 minutes later, the supervisor told the military it was clear to resume jamming. They did. Roughly 5 minutes after that, at 00:15, meaning 15 minutes after midnight, the King Air struck a ridge in the Capitan Mountains at about 9,950 feet, almost 1,000 feet above the airport's own field elevation, on a heading well off the vectors the controller had given them. All 4 aboard were killed instantly. The crash also sparked a wildfire that burned tens of thousands of acres of the Lincoln National Forest before it was contained. The NTSB has been directed that has not yet determined a probable cause. The preliminary report lays out a timeline. It doesn't yet assign blame. A final report is expected in the coming months. Here's the line, the steelman segment. Every episode, we give the other side its strongest, fairest case. Here's the case for the military and NavFest. The United States does not get to choose whether it fights a war against an adversary with real electronic warfare capability. China and Russia have both demonstrated GPS jamming and spoofing against American assets in the Pacific and in Eastern Europe. If our pilots, our ships, and our infantry have never operated without satellite navigation, the first time they lose it, it will be in combat. And Americans will die because we didn't train for it stateside first. NavFest exists because the alternative to training in a GPS-denied environment is discovering live in a shooting war that we can't function in one. Publicly, it was noticed TAMS and had a real working safety valve. The stop buzzer process that a controller successfully used twice that night. The jamming did not ignore a request to stop, it stopped. The tragedy is the final report bears this out. Maybe less about the military's conduct and more about a chain of decisions, of course, in the last 5 minutes of that flight. A visual approach accepted in pitch black terrain with 0% lunar, that's moon, illumination. A turn that didn't match the vectors given, and a safety window that closed at the exact wrong moment. That's a hard, human, tragic set of facts. And it's not automatically a story of military recklessness. That's the strongest version of that argument. Now, here's where I push back. Segment 2. This is where the steelman runs out. So, I, as a retired hospital corpsman who's been through MedEvac, work triage, understands what these 4 people were doing that night, I've got to tell you what my problem with leaving it there is. A safety system that depends on a human being making 2 phone calls in real time in the dark while a plane is actively navigating blind, that's not a safety system, that is a hope. The stop buzzer worked exactly once. It was never tested for what happens when a crew regains GPS for 90 seconds, makes a critical decision under that window, and then loses the tool that decision depended on 5 minutes earlier. Nobody designed for that failure mode. NavFest engineers built a system to jam GPS. Somebody else apparently bolted a courtesy phone line onto it and called that layer safety. And here's the number that should bother every one of us, regardless of our political party. According to reporting, jamming exercises have been scheduled at White Sands on at least a dozen more days since this crash. That's not a cover-up. Nobody's hiding that. Nobody's holding anyone accountable. It's arguably worse. It's the same process, running the same way, in the open, while the NTSB hasn't even finished asking while 4 people are dead. New Mexico's entire congressional delegation sent a letter to the Secretary of Defense, Whiskey Pete Hegseth, demanding answers about DOD's role in the crash and the wildfire that it caused. The fire has a name, by the way, the Seven Cabins Fire, and it burned somewhere north of 30,000 acres. The delegation isn't just asking why. They're asking whether the Department of Defense will compensate the victims' families, whether it'll reimburse the state and county for firefighting costs, and whether this jamming exercise has caused other close calls, nosebot, that no one's heard about yet. Separately, Congressman Gabe Vasquez sent his own letter to both Whiskey Pete Hegseth and Transportation Secretary Sean Duffy. As of this recording, Secretary Hegseth has not publicly responded to either letter. And here's the part that should really bother you, regardless of party. This was not the first warning. A review of FAA's own voluntary pilot safety reporting system found nearly 70 separate reports since 2010. 170 over 16 years of pilots flagging GPS jamming near White Sands missile range. 70 warnings on the record before 4 people died. That's not a cover-up either. It's worse than a cover-up in one sense. The information was sitting right there in a federal database the whole time, and nobody closed the gap until it killed some people. This isn't a story about a military cover-up. It's a story about a system that had exactly one manual safeguard between a training exercise and a civilian aircraft, 70 documented warnings that this was a problem, and a 5-minute blind spot that nobody closed until it was too late. Let's bring it home to Hardin County here in District 3 for this segment now. Clip that. Here's why this matters to us. Right here. We don't have White Sands Missile Range in Hardin County, Kentucky, but we absolutely have military airspace. And we have people whose lives depend on emergency air transport working exactly right every time without a hiccup. Fort Knox is right next door. Elizabethtown Regional Airport handles medical flights. If a family member of yours ever needs an air ambulance out of this county in the middle of the night, the system keeping that flight safe, navigation, communication, coordination between civilian and military air traffic are the same categories of systems that failed those 4 people in New Mexico, and all the people, of course, who lost their property from the fire that was started by that crash. This is exactly the kind of oversight questions a fiscal court magistrate should be asking before there's a tragedy, not after. What's our local air transport coordination look like? Do our first responders and EMS providers know who to call and how fast? If there's ever an issue with signal, weather, or airspace conflict near this county, I spent 24 years as an independent duty corpsman. I know what it looks like when a safety system gets built around what usually goes right instead of what happens when it doesn't. That's the standard I would bring to this seat. Ask the uncomfortable question before the funeral, not during the investigation after. All right, so let's close this out. 4 people went to work on May 13 to bring a stranger to a hospital. They did their jobs. The system around them had 1 working safeguard, 70 ignored warnings, and 1 5-minute gap, and the gap won. That's not a conspiracy, it's a design failure that had years of runway to get fixed and didn't. And design failures get fixed by people willing to ask hard questions in public, not by people that, wait until after a tragedy. So y'all, it is time to start asking these serious questions. Find out, do your candidates have a plan? Are they willing and ready to work on a plan for this? This is what I will bring to the table. Y'all, this has been the Hillbilly Think Tank. I am the educated hillbilly, Spencer Keck. I am running for magistrate, District 3, Hardin County. We need to vote seriously in November. We need to look at what is on the table. Are people planning to prevent mishaps, or are they just planning to do investigations later after people die and then come up with a plan? That's what this whole election turns around nationwide. All right, y'all. Now, next up, you'll tune in tomorrow, and I will try to be on time. But like I said, I'm here at the hospital in UK in Lexington with a family member. Had a great surgery outcome today. This place amazes me. We actually could hear MedEvac flights coming in and out while I was here. So this is apropos, because we know this is where we fly a lot of folks from Hardin County when we have to fly them out for emergencies. But let's look at one other thing we got going on. Right now, and I'm going to report on this tomorrow, so tune in tomorrow, ChatGPT AI is giving us a Terminator movie in real life. ChatGPT AI escaped its paper-thin, well really, its non-existent boundaries, goes rogue, and hacked AI startup Hugging Face. The genie is out of the bottle, y'all, and the Trump administration still refuses to regulate AI. It also turns out that Anthropic saw the same thing happen with their AI. So they're out hacking other systems without even being ordered to. Are we going to regulate? Again, tune in tomorrow. Y'all, this has been the Hillbilly Think Tank. And let's remember, in this state, our motto is, united we stand, divided we fall. That's not just words on a flag. That is the glue that holds us all together. If we recognize we are our neighbors, what do we say about neighbors? We love them as ourselves. We also recognize that we are our brother's keeper and our sister's keeper. And we say, yes, we will take up that task. And as long as we do that, then we cannot be divided and we will not fall. Y'all, it is time to remember all the folks from Kentucky that are deployed in the danger zone. And it's very dangerous right now. We need to keep them in our hearts and our prayers. Bless your corazón, that is Spanish for heart. Have a great evening and a great start to your week.
as tears turn to mirth, as we walk through the valley of death, and I draw my last